In the foggy quiet of January, we commit together to learning that can be simultaneously challenging and transformative, inviting a combination of self-reflection and pragmatic action. I'm grateful for the time and energy you're putting into this day, and I hope you'll leave inspired to both make change and keep learning. In January, because of Whitman's particular event schedule, we usually face a choice between a kind of constrained auditorium where we all sit forward in rows with the kind of expectations that brings, and slightly awkward arrangements of tables. So this morning I wanted to just assert and acknowledge the brick post in the room rather than pretend it's not there, that we went for this kind of communal space that invites a lot of different ways of being. We hope that you will take care of your own needs throughout this time. If you need to get up, get water, take private space, we can use Reed GO2, which is a kind of meeting room over there if you need a place to be on your own for a little while. I did write this out, now I'm freewheeling, and so I'm getting a little off. We also want to promote you doing what helps you learn best. So if that means taking notes, wonderful. If it means standing at the edge of the room for a while, that is great, or taking a little walk. If it means knitting, however it is that you pay attention best, please embrace your best way of being in this room. And then finally, I wanted to note, as you'll see at the tables that some of you are sitting at, this event is being recorded. We'll stop doing so during the Q&A session so that you can feel that can be really a candid moment and kind of safer for vulnerability, but we're also wanting to ensure that other members of our community are able to learn the content. So that's what we're up to. So with that in mind, I'd like to welcome my colleague on the Inclusive Excellence Council, Janine Gordon, Special Assistant to the President for Native American Outreach, and I will hand off our little mic.
Thank you, Wendy. Tatsmemi, Kaliloid said, Inem Titokitim Kiwash Winikt Sawitku, Kainem Shoyapatim Kiwash Winikt, Janine Gordon. Good morning and welcome. My Indian name is Wild Carrot People. My English name is Janine Gordon, and I'm the Special Assistant to the President for Native American Outreach here at Whitman College. I am an enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, the federally recognized American Indian nation consisting of the Waiilatpu Cayuse, Imataplama, Umatilla, and the Walulapum, Walla Walla tribes. The land upon which we gather this morning is the traditional homeland of my Waiilatpu and Walulapum, Cayuse, and Walla Walla ancestors. This area of Walla Walla is known to us as Pashkapa, the place of the wild sunflowers. As we begin our Community Learning Day session on embracing neurodiversity, I welcome you to the homelands of our tribal people, upon which Whitman College was founded and exists. The college honors our tribal elders, both past and present, and extends respect to all Indigenous people today. As a higher education institution and college community, we hold deep appreciation for our local Native tribes and their stewardship of the land upon which we all live, as we partner with them in meaningful work that strengthens our ongoing relationship through the Memorandum of Agreement between the college and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, as well as through the work being done through the college's strategic plan. I am honored to be here to share this time with you and welcome you all to this morning's session. Hiwish, Tatslahane. It is a good day. Liloitza, welcome. Katsiyaw, thank you.
Hello, my name is Nadine Stecklight and I work in the Career and Community Engagement Center. And I'm here to introduce our speaker today. Mia Love is a holistic mindset strategist, a TEDx speaker, and coach. As the district director in lands, buildings, and real estate at Stanford University, she brings over 25 years of experience in higher education and healthcare facilities management. She is a champion of neurodiversity initiatives and an advocate for embracing neurospicy, neurodivergent thinking, leveraging her expertise to create inclusive and supportive environments. Mia is also the founder of Real Freedom with Love, where she uses her holistic wellness expertise to help professionals especially women, overcome imposter syndrome and own their unique brilliance. As a TEDx and keynote speaker, she works to ensure inclusive learning and creates opportunities for the neurospicy community and their allies. Help me welcome Mia Love today.
Good morning, everyone. Just a moment to make my mic adjustment, because otherwise this will hinder. All right, how's that? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, perfect. Let me know if it gets too loud with the beats. I wanted to share with everyone this wonderful show that I've got here today. So, we are going to unpack a little bit of neurotypical privilege. First, I will start by saying thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the Whitman College community. Thank you for embracing neurodiversity. This is something that I'm extremely passionate about because this is the opportunity for me to step into my truth. I took a lot of time trying to figure out sort of why I felt like I was kind of trying to figure out where my spaces were in life. And I found this comfortability in this world of neurodiversity. And once I did that, I couldn't stop talking about it. Literally could not stop talking about it. And everybody's like, this is all you talk about. I'm like, right, this is all I talk about. I'm gonna keep talking about it until enough people are talking about it so that it's something that, you know, we're all embracing. And unpacking a world that was not designed for people that think outside of the box and people that think like people that we all know and love. So let's get into it. You've already heard about me, so we're not going to go back into that bio slide. 20% of the population identifies as neurodivergent. That just means that there's a very small section of the world that's comfortable saying, hey, guess what? I'm neurodivergent. I identify as having all these different things. Judy Singer is actually the social scientist that coined the term neurodiversity. She identifies as being on the spectrum herself. That's ADHD, OCD, PTSD, all the other buzzwords that you may or may not have heard of. And again, this is just who identifies as being neurodivergent. This very small spectrum, because it's still not psychologically safe for people to say, I think different, I feel different. This doesn't work for me, and here's why. Because the world was designed for the 80%. This is a very cool little clicker, so I'm still getting used to it, but I do like it. So, since the world was designed for this section, this little group of people down here is still just kind of trying to find our way into a space where we say, we want to say that this is not working out for us, these lights are too bright, the sound is too much, this, you know, I'd love to have a tactile surface or something to hold on to, and I don't want you to think that I'm awkward, but this is what I need. I need to have a quiet space to step into. Like I tell my family on the holidays, I love all of you, I just don't love the gatherings because on such and such's laugh is too loud, and I love sports, but I don't love when everybody cheers at the same time, right? So it's just finding your way to be able to express things like that to your friends and family and loved ones without them feeling offended is very, very difficult when the world is designed for large gatherings, or my friends wonder why we go to a concert, and I'm like, I really want to be there. They're like, why do you have on headphones? I'm like, I'm having a good time. And they go, but you have on headphones. I'm like, but I'm having an amazing time, and it's exhausting to always have to explain why I have the headphones on, or why I may say, you know what, I'll be right back. And they're going, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Oh, do you need anything? No, just to, you know, be in my own little 20%. So what I love to do is just expand the knowledge so that people can understand and we can increase these numbers of people that are comfortable identifying. So right now what we're going to do is we are going to do an activity called the neurodiversity test. This is something that you keep to yourself. I'm going to read a couple of statements, and so this may be you or this may be someone that you know or love. This is a tax that a lot of neurodiverse people pay on a day-to-day basis throughout life. And if you identify within these statements, you can either just hashtag in your mind or hashtag on a piece of paper. So have you ever felt overwhelmed by bright lights or loud noises in everyday settings? Have you ever found yourself intensely focused on a task, losing track of time for hours? Have you ever struggled to start a task, even when you know it's important? Have you ever felt the need to recharge after social interactions? Have you ever had difficulty reading social cues or understanding sarcasm? Have you ever experienced strong reactions to certain textures in clothing or food? Have you ever found comfort in repetitive movements or fidgeting? Have you ever noticed you think in patterns or visualizing concepts differently than others? Have you ever felt the need to stick to a specific routine to feel balanced? Have you ever experienced heightened empathy or emotional sensitivity? Have you ever found yourself collecting or organizing items in a very particular way? Have you ever noticed that you have an exceptional memory for details in your areas of interest? Have you ever felt overwhelmed when faced by too many choices? Have you ever experienced difficulty in changes in plans or unexpected events? Have you ever found that you process verbal instructions differently than written ones? Those are just a couple of the things that neurodiverse individuals experience on a day-to-day basis. There's a list of hundreds and hundreds of things that we deal with, from audio processing to textures to all the different things. But imagine a world where, like I said, it's designed for the 80% and there's 20% of people that are constantly trying to catch up when you may not be able to process verbal instructions. Like, I watch every single thing with closed captioning. In fact, I wish that people had captioning when they were talking to me all the time, right? So imagine you trying to listen to verbal instructions and someone's talking to you and you have dyscalculia or dyslexia and you're trying to pay attention and eye contact is difficult for you and you want to make sure that you're making the right facial expressions and standing the right way, but your brain is trailing off and then there's a loud noise and then there's a tag in your clothes that's scratching, but then something else is going on and you're a little confused, the temperature is difficult and the lights are bright. All those things add up to the experience that a neurodiverse individual can experience, but they're still standing there trying to pay attention, and then when you get home, you're just like, oh my gosh, I made it through the day, I made it through the moment, I made it through the meeting, and then people are going, are you okay, what's wrong, are you having a good time? It's like, yeah, I'm fine. And you're constantly trying to show up. So I just want people to understand that sometimes the weight gets a little bit heavy and, like Mary said earlier, if you feel the need that you want to step out, if you feel the need that you want to shift in your chair, this space is open for you to do whatever you can do safely, for you to enjoy the space any way that you need to enjoy the space. And this is the way that life should be designed for us in general. We know that it's difficult, we know that we're still getting to those spaces, but the more that we can increase understanding and unpack the neurotypical privileges, the easier it will be for people to be able to process information and data in the way that it should be delivered. Now, when you're navigating the neurodivergent experience, it's really, really important to identify the strengths of neurodiverse individuals. I'm going to back up and tell you a quick story. So, neurodivergent individuals have the ability to process information really, really quickly, and we are actually the ones that you want in an emergency because we've already sussed out all the possibilities. We've already figured out what's going to happen. We know where the emergency assembly points are. We looked at an emergency binder one time and are probably hyper-focused on it. So we know everything that's in that binder, right? So if something happens, you see the person that's like, oh, yep, I already know what to do. On my way here, my flight from Seattle was canceled, and everybody's standing there like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? I'm on an app. I had my earpiece in. I'm calling my credit card company trying to reserve a car because I'm like, who's going to get it faster? It's going to be Priceline. It's going to be American Express. It's going to be Hertz. It's going to be Alamo. I've got 2 phones and an earpiece in. So the winner was the credit card company, right? The lady that was sitting on the flight next to me is like, what are you going to do? I said, I already reserved your car. Where do you live? She goes, I live in Walla Walla. I think I'm going to call my husband and see if he can come pick me up. I said, well, since you know where you're going, you can ride with me. So she and I took a drive over the mountain last night and made it here. So she got to hear this entire thing on the way over, and she said, she's like, lot of the superpowers that we have, if you're able to flourish in an environment and people can understand where we're coming from, we have a lot to offer. But unfortunately, because the world was not designed for us, things like time blindness show up as missed deadlines because you want to start the task. You know the task is important, but you get stuck in this particular cycle and don't get it done, and then the deadline gets missed. All the while, if you get the opportunity to start something that you thought was going to take 5 hours, literally only takes you 20 minutes because you already had all the information. It's just getting out of that cycle and just getting it done. And then executive function, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you're so disorganized. It's like, I'm not disorganized. I just don't know where to start because I've hyper-focused on so much information. I just need to pare it down to where it can possibly get done. And once you get out of that cycle or you have that body double there to help you get in that particular situation, you're going to get over it very quickly. Now, task multiplying. This is something that a lot of people say, wow, you're so scattered. Let me give you an example of task multiplying. This morning when I was getting ready, I'm like, okay, I need to do this, this, or this. So I start doing something and I'm like, oh, I need to charge my iPad because I'm going to need that for this activity. Oh, which glasses am I going to wear? Wait, I'm not going to wear my glasses. And then I forgot to plug my iPad in. Then I'm like, oh wait, do I have my charger? And I said, okay, well let me go back and get my bag and make sure this is packed. All the while, I still didn't go get the charger. And then I'm like, oh, I need to get my water bottle. But then maybe I want to make coffee. Oh, maybe today I'm going to drink tea. And then I walked out of the hotel room and I left my charger plugged in, right? So it's just, but to anyone else, they say, oh, you're just so scattered. To me, I was literally going through all the activities that I needed. The same thing can happen to somebody so easily, right? And so they're saying, oh, your brain is all over the place. What I do when I'm at home is I have Post-it notes all over the house, and I have a bag that I hang on my front door. So when I get ready to go in the morning, if I know I need my charger, I walk to the front door, I drop the charger in the bag. Next thing I'm like, oh gosh, I think I want to go to the gym, so then I start putting what I need in there. If I'm going to take my lunch, I start putting that stuff in there. Otherwise, I'm going to make 15 trips up and down the stairs, getting to my car going, oh shoot, I don't have my glasses. Oh shoot, I don't have my lunch. Oh shoot, I don't have my gym clothes. And so to the world, it looks like I'm disorganized, but in my mind, I'm literally just stacking all the tasks on top of each other, trying to make sure that I get everything done that needs to be done in a day. So there's a lot of tools out there, but like I said, to the outside world, sometimes it'll appear that you're scattered. Now, sleep needs. This is really important because, like I said before, overstimulation occurs, and so at the end of that, you may need to just completely shut down so that you can recharge and get ready for the very next interaction. And sometimes people will say, oh my gosh, you're so lazy, you just did one thing on Friday, why don't you want to do anything else until Monday? For me, after I expend all that energy doing all those things, dealing with the neurodiversity tax, I do need 2 days to just go to myself and then get ready for the next interaction. But it's because there's so much additional energy being expended to be in that space. Because I'm calculating, okay, we're in here right now. Do I know where all the exits are? Do I remember what happened? Or I don't remember how we got here. I remember that this person needs to do this when we leave here. I know this needs to happen. Oh, by the way, I need to stop by here. And so you're calculating so many things at one time. And so at the end of that, you may need to do more to take care of yourself than what is quote unquote the average or neurotypic person. But to other people, that will seem like you're going into shutdown mode. So don't lean into that. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself and doing what you need to do. I also use a weighted blanket. If you have not found the magic of a weighted blanket, it is the best thing ever. They sell them all over the place, wherever your favorite shopping thing is. I have one that's like, I think it's 11 pounds. I turned my sister onto it, and this is a true story. She got the weighted blanket the day after a holiday. She didn't answer the phone. My mom and her son called me like, your sister's not answering. What's wrong? Maybe you should drive over there. My sister lives 12 miles away from me. I had to drive over there and knock on her door. And she comes to the door with like plus signs in her eyes. She's like, what's going on? I said, everybody said you're not answering. She goes, well, that blanket that you had me get, I was sleeping so good. So, it was like wonderful for her, but it had my entire family worried. So I go, from now on, when you get under the blanket, just send everybody a text in the family group chat and say, I'm getting under the blanket and I'm going to sleep. So now, emotional dysregulation. A lot of times people will say, you're having a tantrum. No one wants to have a meltdown in Kroger's or Trader Joe's, but sometimes you become overstimulated because there's a lot going on. And when you can't process what is going on in your mind, sometimes you may have an emotional outburst because it's loud, it's noisy, the lights are bright, someone runs into the back of your heel with the cart. You know, all types of things could be happening, and you could have an adverse reaction very quickly, or a lot of stuff could have already occurred during the day. And so some people will say that's a tantrum, when in fact it's really just displaying emotional dysregulation. So there's not necessarily a quote-unquote solution to this, and I don't think that we should be trying to find solutions to it, but I think we should be able to explain to people, hey, listen, I'm feeling a little bit overstimulated right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a deep breath. Just give me a moment before you get to that point. If you are able to articulate, hey, I really don't like to go to the store on Saturday afternoon or Sundays because it's a little bit more crowded. I tend to like to go grocery shopping on a Tuesday or use Instacart and have it deliver or whatever your favorite service is because I don't want to get into a place where I'm overstimulated. So any way that you can, you know, have situations where you're able to protect your energy, it's a good way for you to be able to step outside of emotional dysregulation. Now, special interests. I call this the Hobby Lobby, special interests and hyperfixations. I have so many different things. Even when I write a bio, people are like, well, what do you like to do? I'm like, uh-oh, this is going to be difficult. It depends on what I'm interested in at the time, because it could be food, it could be wine, it could be travel, it could be, you know, just a bunch of different things. I was just talking to you about crystals because there was a time that I was hyperfixated on crystals, and now I have this entire box of all these crystals, but then I shifted to something else, and I'm like, oh, now I love cooking. Now I love baking bread. At one point, I loved making pasta. At one point, I was into electronics. So that's what we call it the Hobby Lobby, but hyperfixations and special interests are something that a lot of neurodivergent people struggle with because people say, oh, you're always shifting gears, you're always changing your mind. You don't stick to anything. When in actuality, we do stick to whatever we're interested in at the time, which is why we tend to be subject matter experts in so many different things. But people will say, oh, you're wasting money on things. Now you're buying this, now you're doing that. And you shouldn't be ashamed of your interests because, again, we are the ones that you're going to want to call when you want those very obscure facts about things that you probably didn't know that we're an expert in. Shoelaces, you know, whatever. It's going to be something very, very obscure, but you all know that you have that friend that you can call that knows something about a very, very obscure topic, right? So be thankful for that hyperfixation. Sensory sensitivity. A lot of people call this irritability, and they're going, oh my gosh, did you notice that when you're talking to such and such, they always get upset about this, that, or the other? It could be sensory overload. For me personally, I used to get into very heated conversations with my partner about my socks getting wet because he would get the bathroom floor wet, and if I would walk in there in the middle of the night and my socks got wet, that would send me over the roof. I don't like when my feet are wet. I don't like when I'm walking outside and, you know, I have on canvas shoes. That's just a thing for me, right? So sometimes people would say that's an extreme reaction. Oh my gosh, it's just water, just change your shoes. Whatever. That was my thing for me. That was my ceiling. So that was a thing where we kind of had to just say, okay, listen, you have to understand that's my sensory overload, and everybody has their thing. Sometimes it's the lights being too bright. A lot of neurodiverse people don't like when you turn the big light on. So if you just walk in the room and flip that big light on, that will send people into what you can call emotional dysregulation or irritability, or loud noises or loud booms or things like that. There's a lot of different things that can send people into that particular situation. So if you are able to express what those are, you can let people know it's not just me being irritable. This is a sensory sensitivity for me in particular, and I hope that you can understand it and that we can work our way to the other side of it so that people are not making those value judgments. Audio processing, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Difficulty communicating in social interactions. People say you're not listening. It's not that I'm not listening to you, it's that sometimes I'm actually really trying to process what you're saying. So I may be listening to you. Eye contact is not really my thing. I'm listening to you more if you're talking to me and I'm fidgeting, but as children, a lot of us were taught that you have to make eye contact. If I'm looking at you and I'm making eye contact with you, I'm not processing anything that you're saying because I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, is my posture right? Am I standing the right way? Am I nodding at the things because I'm not getting any of the jokes that you're saying? I don't even understand what you're doing. doing, but if you allow me the ability to do the fidgeting that I need to do and just, you know, do what I, and look around and toy with this remote that's in my hand, now I'm picking up everything that you're understanding. But if you tell someone, you have to make eye contact when you talk to me. I don't think that you're listening to me. Are you paying attention to what I'm saying right now? I don't feel like you're listening. That's when that processing goes out the window. So allow people the opportunity to listen in a way that's comfortable for them. Allow them to be able to sit. A lot of times I'll sit on the floor or I'll sit in a chair in a way that people would say is quote unquote non-traditional, but that's more comfortable for me. And I think a lot of people are trying to evolve to the point that they can understand that you don't have to have a certain posture to know that you're paying attention to people. That's just another part that we're trying to get used to and unpack. Now, ARFID, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. This is something that I struggled a lot with as a child. I'm the youngest of 8, so I grew up in that household of if you're hungry, you're going to eat it. And a lot of times I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to say that I'm not hungry tonight because I'm not eating that. So, and that in my household, I have West Indian parents, that was a sign of disrespect. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm not going to go back and forth, but I'm not going to eat it. And now my parents were able to understand a lot more about neurodiversity. And the one thing they really thought was interesting is when I said, guess what, guys, this is hereditary. So, you know, we'll talk about it, but it came from the two of you. So we've had some great discussions about it now. And I think now we're starting to unpack and they're understanding, you know, which sides of them I got it from. But avoidant resistant food take disorder is where a texture or a color or a smell or something about food could be off-putting to someone. For me, it has a lot to do with textures. I don't enjoy things that are slimy, but some people, you know, pungent smells or things like that can be off-putting to them. And people would always say, oh my gosh, you're really picky. Or when we go out to eat, my friends are like, you better ask Mia what she wants because whatever we pick, she's not going to want to get anything. So I would just say, it's fine. I'll get french fries or I'll get salad. I can find something on any kind of menu. That used to be my response to things. But now I'm like, you know what? I do want to have input on where we're going. I want to make some suggestions about, you know, what's there because we have to stop shrinking into places and just saying, you know what, it's fine. I'll just go along with whatever and advocate for yourself. Talk about what's comfortable because also my friends are like, oh my gosh, this is really good. I like when you make suggestions because I'm learning more about additional things that are out there and additional cuisines and they're interested in the reasons why I'm saying, you know, it's not that I don't think that's great. It's just that the textures and the colors and the smells and things like that are not something that I really enjoy. And then the other thing is that there are a lot of comorbidities that go along with neurodivergent individuals, and people are like, oh, you're a hypochondriac. You can't have all these things wrong with you. But what actually happens is that you're masking so much. You're holding so much in, and you're dealing with so many different things that it really does manifest itself in additional physical symptoms. Because you're dealing with hypersensitivity, you're dealing with the neurodiversity tax that can show up in gastrointestinal issues and all types of other things that start to manifest themselves in other ways. So when you go to your physician or when you go to your mental health professional and you say, hey, guess what? I'm getting headaches and I'm not able to digest my food and I have these skin irritations and I have this and I have that, then a lot of times they're going, oh, you know, I don't know, maybe some of this could just be something that's going on in your head. We're starting to learn now that these stressors and all these additional things are actually comorbidities that truly do go along with neurodiversity because of all the additional things that you deal with. And this is one that I talk a lot about, high functioning. When I first started disclosing to people that I have ADHD and I'm autistic, the first thing people would say is, you don't look autistic. And I'm like, well, what does autism look like? And people would say stuff like, well, Rain Man. And I'm like, really? That's your... Well, isn't Sheldon autistic? I'm like, oh, come on. So it's one of those things that when people use definitions like high functioning, that means that there's low functioning. It's a variation of support needs. We don't put labels on high functioning, low functioning. It's just a variation of support needs. This is a spectrum for a reason. There's a spectrum of different support that people need. There's a spectrum of different accommodations that people need, and we're going to go more into that. But if you can, one of the major things that's really helpful is to take high and low functioning out of your vocabulary because we don't want to have value judgments and categories for people feeling like you need more support, you need less support, you're high functioning, you're low functioning. So like I said, avoidant resistant food intake disorder is commonly known as picky eaters, but it really is just what we described. Now, a lot of campuses have specific resources. These are some of the resources that we have at Stanford. We have the Stanford Neurodiversity Project, which is a student support program that has classes that actually lean into design thinking around neurodiversity support. But one of the things that I've been talking to our campus a lot about is putting neurodiversity support in for faculty and staff. And that's one of the areas where we still have a bit of a gap. We are wildly excited that we're able to bridge the gap with students, but we really want to make sure that we're able to make sure we have those accommodations for faculty and staff as well. And I'm happy to share more about these courses that we have on our particular campus. But we have neurodiversity, so introduction and advocacy is parts 1, 2, and 3, and then we have the Stanford Neurodiverse Institute that takes place in October of every year, and this is a worldwide forum that goes on for 3 days, and it's an online format that just does a lot of studies and does report outs from students, faculty, and staff from around the world. So now, navigating neurodivergence in a neurotypical world. A common challenge for neurodivergent people is navigating definitions. Now, neurotypical equate capacity with emotional awareness, skills, and limitations are seen as barriers to success. Like I said, advocating for yourself can be very difficult because people see it as a rate-limiting step. If you ask for an accommodation, they automatically think that it has to do with your intelligence. If you say, hey, listen, I may need to have a little bit more time remote because we went to that large format meeting, we went to an all-staff meeting, and I'm a little worn out by that presentation, or I'm, a little bit put off by a lot of the things that went on, and I need to step away. People say, oh my gosh, you always need something extra, and they think that equates to your intelligence. Or if you get pushed back by saying, I really didn't understand what was going on in that. There's this database that we use very commonly in our department, and I finally had to raise my hand and say, I have no idea what's going on with that database. I recorded the meeting on Zoom. I reached out to the developer. Now, I understood the concept of what was going on, but I didn't want to mess up what was happening on the other end of it, so I finally just said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I want to know, and I want to do this right, but I have to be honest with you. I don't know what was going on. And a couple people on my team were like, I'm so glad you said something. I didn't know what was going on either. I just didn't want to say anything. So we were all about to just make a huge mess of this thing. But it always takes one person to just step out and say, hey, listen, I need a little bit of extra help. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but the more that we're able to advocate for ourselves, the easier that it makes in particular settings. And the more that neurotypical people are able to understand that does not equate to intelligence, because we have this out-of-the-box way of thinking, and while you may be able to process information in a particular way, there's other strengths that neurodivergent folks have and they can bring to the table. Now, in underfunded and underrepresented communities, you can understand why this is compounded, because the information is just not there. The representation is just not there. The resources are just not there. So imagine this type of situation happening in an underfunded or underrepresented community. You just are not going to have the counselors available. You're not going to have the resources available. And you're not going to have the advocacy available. So it's more important, and this is another reason why I talk about this so much, because I want this messaging to push outside of communities that wouldn't normally have the opportunities for it. Now, fostering inclusivity, recognizing and understanding and accommodations is really, really critical for individuals and institutions to recognize and accommodate the unique needs and strengths of neurodivergent folks. This requires open-mindedness, and this requires empathy and a willingness to learn about understanding the experiences of neurodivergent individuals, because this is the only way they're going to be able to work towards fostering inclusivity. I actually have a couple of breakout exercises that I want us to do for us to be able to think about this. Here we go. I want to do one of the breakout sessions because I feel like I'm talking for a long time and I want to make sure that everybody's able to stay engaged. So we can do this. If you're at a table that has an index card, you can do this with an index card. If you're somewhere that there's not an index card, don't worry about it, it's gonna work out the same. So what I would like for you to do is either write down or think about a situation like attending a concert or organizing a messy desk or following a complex recipe. And then once you've written those down or once you've thought about them, then just think about what that would look like in your mind. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to just write those down or to think about what it would look like to be able to attend a loud concert, organize a messy desk, or follow a complex recipe. And those aren't the only examples. Just think about something that happens on a day-to-day basis, like a day-to-day activity. You know, folding a large pile of laundry, organizing a garage, doing a database activity, something that's a complex exercise. And once you've got those written down, then you're going to organize them amongst the group. Or if you're at one of the tables here, you guys can just kind of talk through what those exercises would be if you're on the couches or on the outer rooms. Just think about what those activities are. There's, some kind of complex activity that can happen on a day-to-day basis. It could be something like going shopping for the holidays or
I'm the co-host.
once everybody's got their activities down, then you can just draw the cards within the group. Everybody can just pull the cards, or you can just discuss them as a whole. And the idea is to look at what someone with ADHD, autism, dyslexia, or sensory processing sensitivity would face in doing those particular activities.
And usually it's like something like that's like financially like related. Like if I'm applying for credit cards, like I'm like, oh, I want to like look at like my retirement account, like see what that's doing, but I can't do it like right in the middle of my credit card, otherwise it'll like too long for this task. So I like write it down for later. But I know what you mean. Like when you finish the task, you're not like, oh, well, what's the next? You just like kind of forgot. You don't really like kind of feel like your brain's kind of.
Well, for that, sometimes it can be that thing where you know you want to do something, but you like before you can make a decision or whatever, you need to do some research and learn more about it. And so you're like, I'm not adequately prepared to take this on, and I don't have the energy to go and do like all the research I feel like I need to do like on something. And so that kind of leads to procrastination. I've never been like pressured in. But although I feel all the stuff
Like for someone with ADHD, they probably like they're probably like over-calculating, like look at like a bunch of people and like try to calculate like the social interactions with those people, like oh, how do I know these people? How am I like factoring their friendship? When was the last time I saw them? And it doesn't like come super naturally like should I say
and it gets weirder and weirder.
yeah. Maybe because you like the pets more than people. I don't know. Anyway, my activity was tidying up the house. Yeah, like if someone had ADHD, they would probably do what I described earlier. Like you start a task and then you start, I don't know, like cleaning the shower and then you run out of cleaner or like the smell starts getting to you. So like cleaner and you like Google how to make the cleaner and you're like, oh, do I want to do it like in the bathroom or should I try to impress me? Because I like trying stuff. And you just like 30 minutes to get back in the shower and like you just keep like getting involved in other like side projects.
Just ping pong around the house, like doing half this and just getting distracted. This what kids this and having that. Like we do something yes. I didn't know what's that.
what?
I don't know what the normal word is.
I usually go pretty all into like doing more research, or like making like a new bottle of beer, or like just like getting all like everything like in place, and it takes me a lot longer than I thought. But it's like, oh, I didn't like really
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh yeah. Oh, I was gonna say we gotta talk about dyslexia or like sensory processing sensitivity.
Whether that's something that's dirty or
yeah.
as I was wandering around the room. Oh, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'd love to hear, would you like to share? I would love to hear some of the things that I heard a little bit of it, but I know other people in the room would love to hear as well. Is that comfortable for folks to be able to share?
I totally missed what you said.
Oh, I was saying, would anyone like to share some of the things that came from their tables? I was wandering around and I heard some amazing things, and I was wondering if anybody would like to share some of the amazing things that were happening in their areas. I heard a lot of great discussions. What was that?
Amy, I'm trying to, oh, it's definitely working, so I'm bringing this back to you.
Testing. Okay. Well, I just wanted to bring this up because of the question it led our group to, but at least two of us wrote down something about going to the grocery store, and specifically we talked about in-store at Walmart here in Yeah, so clearly this is relatable, and it prompted a discussion about how much of this experience is, quote, within the bounds of typical versus neurodivergent, and why it's important to allow that to be a spectrum, when you were talking about. But we talked about the bright lighting, the endless search for things and seeing other things on the way there, the fact that now in-store at Walmart you can only exit through one channel. It's all in the center, it's really weird. It's crowded, it's also crowded with people, the lovely people doing the shopping for the folks who are parked out at the curb waiting for their groceries, so they have huge carts and they're in the way, it's all over the place. Trying to park, the number of sheer choices for everything, reading the signs. They've reorganized the store like a bunch this year, so I don't know anyone who knows where anything is in Walmart. And just the fact that it's hard to get help in the store, waiting for people to move the giant cart so that you can see what you need, or waiting in line and having social cues of whether you accidentally cut in line because there's this single line to get out of the store, but then all of a sudden there are 20 stations. Some of them are self-service, some are not, and it's unclear whether you're supposed to wait for permission to go, like at a passport ticket booth, or whether you can just find one that's open and push your way over there. So those are some things we were thinking about.
Thank you.
That was definitely designed by the 80%. Anyone else care to share? Well, like I said, there was a lot of amazing discussions going on as I wandered around the room. I saw a lot of solutions going on, and I know for me personally, I always feel like I'm put on the spot when I'm asked to speak up, but I know that this is a collaborative group, and so I heard things from people doing body doubling, which is a major source of advocacy for neurodivergent individuals. It's something that I do. I shared when I was wandering around that when I want to clean up a particular area or clean up my house, I invite company over, because that applies enough pressure for me to do something. I have hardwood floors and I can't stand mopping them, so I invited my brother, my sister, and one of my friends over Saturday, because I knew I would get the Mercury's oil soap out and do the painstaking job of mopping those wood floors. I have these Amazon bags that I buy, and I'll do all of my laundry, but I never fold it, right? So I have this chair in my office that has this growing pile of laundry in it. So I bought these Amazon laundry bags, and I just shove everything in there, and then I sit in my closet, and then when I'm looking for something, I dump it back out in the chair, and then I find what I want, and then I shove it back in there. So this week, I'm going to invite my sister upstairs into my office, because then, and she's nosy, she will open my closet, so now I'm going to have to fold all the stuff that's in that bag. Otherwise, she'll call my mom and be like, you know, she has this bag in the closet. So that's how I get things done around my house. I invite people over into spaces, and that applies enough gentle pressure to kind of get things done. But like I said, I heard a lot of amazing things about people inviting folks into their spaces. And I also heard discussions about people acknowledging, sensory overload with lighting and overload with going to particular places, and just allowing people the comfortability to process things. So as you continue to think about these things that you discovered, please share them. One of the things that I did with my family at the holiday last year, not this year, is we did a personality assessment, and we always play a game. And like I told you before, I saw my family, I love you, I just don't love the holidays, but I realized that this is what we're doing, so I participate. But holidays last year, we did a personality assessment where we figured out who's red, who's blue, who's green, who's gold. There's a ton of different ones. But we did this particular one, and it was very revealing. Actually, we did the one where I think it was orange, green, gold, and blue. And I'm in orange, which is don't follow instructions, never even read instructions, very free-flowing. Green is analytical, gold always has systems, and blue is the heartfelt person. And it's like everybody identified with the areas that we thought that they would. But it was just a fun exercise for people to get to understand things. And so as I continue to bring deeper understanding within my chosen family and my biological family, it allows us to have these sort of conversations more intentionally. In fact, this year during the holidays, my mom actually was the one that said, oh, we're going to make sure that we have a quiet space. Because I told them, I said, you know, a lot of times people will disappear and they'll go, oh, I got to go to the store, or go to the car, or go take a longer time and break out spaces, the bathroom, go look for something in the garage, because they literally just need to give their ears a break. So if you just create those spaces within holiday gatherings, or create those quiet spaces without going after them and saying, oh, is everything okay, it makes the gatherings a lot easier for people. So just continue processing those ideas, and feel free to to take these things with you. Now, this is a dopamine menu. This is what I think about on a day-to-day basis. And I know that different climates, these will look different, but for starters, sunshine or just light outside, meditation or breath work. Now, let me just say a little bit about meditation. I studied Reiki 1, 2, and 3. I ended up getting my Reiki 3, or quote-unquote Reiki Master Certification in 2019. I struggled with this because I felt like I never reached that nirvana state that everybody else that was studying with me, they were like in this zen, and I'm sitting there going, okay, I need to get some tortillas. I wonder if they have gluten-free tortillas. Okay, if they don't have gluten-free, maybe I can get the self-rising. And everybody else was dropped into this thing, and they're describing something that I was never feeling. And I was like, okay, if this is something I'm really supposed to be doing, I don't think that you can fake it till you make it. So I thought, I'm not getting it. It's going to take me longer. And what I finally realized is that there is neurodynamic breath work and there's neurotypical breath work. So in the neurotypic breath work, you're able to quiet your mind, and you're able to go into this place where you can hit zen, whereas for neurodiverse individuals, you may need to focus on something. I have this thing where I literally look at a box that's closing and opening and closing and opening because I need something to focus on, or I'll listen to a sound that's ticking because I need to have something to be able to focus on, and that's my meditation. I can't have dead silence because then my brain is going to go somewhere else. So for you, if you are using meditation as a part of your dopamine menu, realize that it doesn't have to look the same for everybody. I can't just sit on the floor cross-legged. I have to dance around in place during my meditation because that's my tick, that's what I'm doing. So don't feel like just because yours looks different that you're not getting the same benefit from it. And then breath work is the same thing. For me, box breathing is not one of those things where I can do the inhale and exhale with the quiet sounds because I'm never going to get that. I need to do a little laugh or a little, something else for me to get my breath work going. So you can get the same things. And I, even with my spellings, I wanted mine to be breath work because I'm doing the breath and I'm doing the work, not just breath work the way that other people do it. So those are my starters. And then movement. Movement is always something, I'm fidgeting all the time because I have a ton of tics. I was so happy when you gave me this remote because I was sitting here thinking, what is going to be my thing that I have in my hand? I usually have a stone, and people call it a worry stone, but I call it a confidence stone. It's a black tourmaline stone, and it has a little thumb hole in it. And so you just rub it in it, and it allows you're supposed to be able to put your worries in it, but I put my confidence in it. So I always have something in my hand. And so I was super excited when I got this because I can spin this. I have spinner rings and fidget toys and things like that. So that could be your movement, but also getting exercise, whatever your abilities allow you to do, whether it's, going for a walk or whether it's just doing whatever you need to do to making sure that you're diverting your eyes, making sure that you're moving around. That just allows you to be your main time in nature. Now, this is an extremely beautiful area For me, it is very cold outside because I live in California and I was not prepared for this weather. Luckily, I dressed in layers, but those of you that are used to this definitely get time in nature. It's crisp and it's beautiful, but I think that that's a really, really important way for you to just take a step away and just go out and appreciate to the degree that it's possible and safe to go out and just, take a step away. We're so tuned into technology, we're so tuned into being in meetings, and we're so tuned into being inside of all of these beautiful buildings that we have, but just being able to step away and take a deep breath, and then a new experience. This is something that I can't say enough about. Every now and then, I will send a message to someone, or if I'm sitting in a meeting next to someone, and I've even started doing this when I'm traveling, and say, hey, what was something fun that you did in the last year? That's how you find out new experiences, and then being willing to try something, even if it's not that exact thing. If someone just told me that they went hiking in Nepal, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not exactly going to do that, but I will go hiking. That will be my new experience, hiking in an area that I haven't done before. Someone else told me that they went, cage diving with sharks. I'm like, okay, I'll watch Shark Week. But just finding new experiences. And then for dessert, dance like nobody's watching. And if you don't want to dance, watch a dance video, but just finding ways. Quality sleep. Listen, this is so important. And this is something that is so difficult for a lot of neurodiverse people to do, to find a way to turn your brain off. I'm telling you, in the morning, I could find all kinds of ways to go to sleep. But when it's time to go to sleep, I am wide awake. My brain is running a race. I'm like, here's all the things that I need to do. So what I do is I go on YouTube and I do brown noise, black screen. And it does a countdown to 10. Your body, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It does a countdown to 10, and then it goes shh, and it does this beautiful brown noise. There's pink noise, there's green noise, there's brown, there's all these different, there's also all these different frequencies. There's 428 hertz, there's 528, there's 432. Find the one that's right for you. And I don't have a TV in my room, but I put it on my phone, and I just put it like far enough away from my bed that I'm comfortable with, and then that lulls me to sleep. I tried the sleep stories, y'all, but my neurodiverse brain wanted to hear the whole story. I was like, wait, what happened to the fireflies? I can't go to sleep. What's going on? What did they do? And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be dozing off. Wait, no, I need to hear the rest of the story. So, the brown noise, black screen is my magic. Keep trying them until you find one that works for you. Because when I found the power of quality sleep and finding a way to get to sleep, it was magical. It just does so much for you. And then practicing gratitude. And I was actually grateful for the sleep. So just finding something that you're grateful for, finding the fact that even if you find a person to be your body double. I was sharing with one of the groups that I have a friend that lives in South Africa, the person I went to go visit when I got these. And because of the time difference, sometimes I will call him on Zoom and he'll be there while I'm cleaning. And sometimes I'll just say, well, hang out, because that's my body double for me to get things done around the house. And sometimes I just fall asleep while he's on Zoom and we just hang out. So I'm grateful for the fact that I have that friend in another time zone. And that's the way that I end my day, with practicing gratitude. Like I said, neurodiverse brains work different. And when I was looking for an image to demonstrate that out-of-the-box thinking, I thought this one was perfect. Because this is what you get, that explosion of color. You get that explosion of the way that our brains are able to think about all these different things that you didn't necessarily consider. And it's not a thing about being smarter or being more or less intelligent. It's literally just thinking about things in a different way. Like I said yesterday, immediately when they started talking about the fog and this plane not going, and then booking us on another flight, I already had multiple different ways of how we're going to get out of here. I mapped out, okay, there's a way through Pasco, but then there's also a car, but then I wonder if there's a train, I wonder if there's a waterway, but if there's fog, we probably can't. I was already like processing all the things, going, okay, let's figure this out. We're on Alaska, that's the main carrier, but there could be. So this is just the way that we process things. I'm telling you, the more that we're able to embrace neurodiverse superpowers, the more that you're going to get that out-of-the-box thinking and be surprised and love the things that are happening. Now, guess what? Another breakout session. So this one is going to be where you are going to choose a specific setting, either workplace, school, public place to focus on. You're going to identify a challenge and brainstorm the potential challenges that neurodivergent individuals might face in that setting. Consider the traits like sensitivity, executive function, or communication difference. And then think about what accommodations you would make for people in those particular settings. And then just think about how that creativity would come into play. So it's just think about the setting, think about what accommodations will be needed in those settings. And you'll do those in your same groups. You don't need to use the cards. This is just a discussion.
What challenges might diverse individuals face at the center? To try to get something done. Kind of want to hang out and kind of want to get something done. Or just or just usually like, I don't know. You know what, though? I need to put my door down.
That's what it is, like if it's a cold day, like
And you walk into like a water park and it's like super hot and it's like cold. I feel like into a water park. That's good. Extremely dark. Any other accommodations you can make? Any other thing?
how would you, as far as thinking about all the distractions,
I think those are fine. Like, I like being able to get stuff done, and I like most office hours because then it gives me structure, and I'm like, well, I have to go to read by this time. And I'll do that schedule my stuff. Oh, that's very good. Yeah, I've gone like upstairs to like the meeting room because if they're empty, I'll just go there instead. Or like sometimes, yeah, too. It's not like an official one.
I guess my thought was that it's good if you might consider those to be available, and I know that those are like the first conferences for like the isolated environment, but also to again communication with people is easily heard and I don't know how much effort it would like to ask them conference like to be outside the show when you could expect them to, because it is terrible for I'm sorry.
I think thinking out the schedule like to do for classrooms.
Yeah.
At the meeting rooms.
Yeah, I mean, like, it seems like whoever is working can have access to what the daily usage is. Post some of these things.
I think of other challenges for another version of these Yeah.
I don't mean to literally, but if I would like to just be quiet.
Yeah. But that probably makes sense for the companies because they could probably make money off that. Yeah.
Yeah, the sound bounced around.
different idea, but if people who don't talk to the cashier, but every single item can have like an RFID or something, and you walk out, and it scans that, and you walk out like that, it charges you, but that could be a lot of fun. Or just, that could be fun. I feel like the funnest thing one with my cashier, unless it's a super big line. But like, when you book those like seamless, like you're just walking around and you walk out, and like, you can tell that like, you walked out with your student ID, and then they'll like, send you a charge to your student ID. How do you not? How do they like, drop it? That would like make something like they could have like backed that into tuition maybe, but like I don't think they would like explicitly say that because they just increase tuition to cover operating costs and not say oh yeah, just like local order items.
Yeah. So I guess just like one you
yeah, I think like I wonder how much English orders would actually go down.
Yeah.
Because I like it's
also, I feel like it kind of takes the same amount of time to like online.
yeah.
I know my friends are big kids. Like when we had like party and then just want to like by yourselves and like talk to them. That's like an awesome. So maybe there's like
The biggest or like a really good suggestion that I came up with is like having stations that people know are like good to study in. I've been down like the most different and like knowing that they can go there and if they're worried about like not being like totally like within like the rules or like the lines or whatever, then they can know. It's just like available and it's like quiet space to do whatever.
do you feel like the checkout line like is like really clearly the way to get into it? I feel like it's kind of like you have to like recognize that that's also something that it's like feel like you're like already provided to talk to them, depending on the conversation that I get
Is that door still closed? Like the right market door?
That's what I was like. I think it was so I don't
It's like one door.
Would anyone like to share anything about their environment and what accommodations they came up with? Again, I heard a lot of wonderful things. I don't know who else to share. I will tell you that I work in facility services at Stanford, and so when I did this exercise with my team, I explained to them that even me as a facility services professional, places that I had built didn't consider the accommodations that I would have liked to have. I've done medical office buildings and all types of office buildings, and I absolutely do not love the pink and white noise technology that we put in there. Sounds like a Learjet landing to me when I'm in the building. It's like this open office environment, and then you have this. That's literally what it sounds like when I'm sitting in there. But to a lot of the well-intentioned folks that are putting these together, they're like, this is beautiful. This allows people to work in a cubicle environment and they can just have this quiet sound. And I'm like, that's not quiet. That's really, really loud. And they're like, no, it's quiet. I'm like, no, it's but it's quiet to you, so that's great. But I also told them, if we're going to do that, you should have headphones so that the people that are in there that don't have that same experience are able to get what you're trying to get to. And so we did incorporate that into it. So that was good. Perfect.
Hi there. So we took as our topic classroom space, because most of the classroom teachers are classroom students. And one of the things that came up was the structure of time and how the structuring of time can privilege quicker thinkers over slower thinkers. And then we started getting outside the classroom and really, with the administration, 10 minutes isn't enough time for students to get from class to class. I think that it's not only ableist, but it's also deeply antisocial. That students wind up rushing and sometimes even forced in the position of being relatively rude to one another and inconsiderate as they're scurrying from the farthest reaches of the campus to the other. And I'm trying to think through two different things, and one of them would be, how do you create a space that validates both quick thinkers and slow thinkers, because they both have tremendous value for us in society, but then also how can we accommodate people moving through the space of our campus and getting, being outdoors replenishes the soul, and giving more time outdoors in between classes, that could be a really valuable restart.
Yeah, that's a very valuable insight. I think the only way to, in my mind, the only way to resolve that is the hybrid environment, which lends itself to a lot of other issues, right? We have real estate that we want people to enjoy, but we also have the need for people to be able to enjoy our outside spaces. So what I've done with classes that I've done in the past is when people are in transit, because I consistently run late, is I tell people, you can start it, here's the Zoom link. If you're running late, you can start it from the Zoom if you are still in transit, but I really, really would love for you, to the degree that you're comfortable, to join us in person so that they don't have the pressure of running late and forgetting their glasses or forgetting their laptop or forgetting those things, and then they can sort of flow into the room when they have a choice or when it makes it easier for them or when they finish up what they're doing. That's how I solve that, and it's worked for me. But thank you for that. And that's true for meetings as well. I actually just asked my executive director if for our faculty and staff meetings, if they could be 40 minutes, because I feel like we spend 5 minutes talking about the fact that we're going to talk about the agenda, and then we spend the last 10 minutes talking about the fact that we just talked about the agenda that we talked about, and we're going to talk about it again. So I'm like, if we cut all that out and just make the meeting 40 minutes and do all the rest of that, like not at all? And he agreed. He's like, 40 minutes sounds good.
I just did that in my department.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right, in our group, we all have kind of administrative jobs on campus, and so we were talking about how our offices deal with the theme of communication or communicating important information like to your peers in your department. And everybody has different ways of processing and actually learning that information, especially when it's really necessary to like the task that we're responsible for doing. And you know, for myself, I said that I'm more of an audio like processor. If people convey the information, I will remember like not only what you said, but where we were sitting and what was happening in the context of that whole conversation. And like I'll remember that for a long time. But if the conversation goes like, well, it's just in the drive. It's just under the training manual this. Go read the 17-page document that somebody put work into. And I'm like, well, first off, what time? Two, now I'm spending a lot of time stressing that I'm not getting my task done because now I'm doing homework, like trying to read and process this information. When sometimes we just have more ways of like actually learning how to convey the information to our staff so we can actually get the job done in the time constraint that they are expecting us to get it done.
Absolutely, that's super powerful. Knowing your strengths and knowing the areas where you thrive, and also identifying the other people on your team that thrive in certain areas is so powerful. On my team, I know I have a person that loves the shared drive, and for me, that's the rabbit hole that I'm just like, I'm not going down. But like you, I will remember things, and I also have this app on my phone called Otter AI, and they know that when someone starts talking, I flick it open and I'm like, I'm not on Instagram, I'm starting Otter so that I know what just happened. And I'll just start my phone, and it does an audio and a text transcript, and I let people know that I'm recording it, right? So then it will export the conversation in audio and text, and now it also summarizes the conversation. So it will give you the notes, group it by bullets, it will give you the audio and the full text of what happened. But I have people on my team that love the drive, so by us doing the strength finders and those personality assessments and things like that, and they're not 100% obviously, but it allows you to know who has what strengths, and then you build that within your team, and people can operate in their best and highest use so that they're not asking me to go into the drive, because they know the only drive I'm going is the one home, not the shared. So thank you for that. It's so difficult to think about throwing a piece of technology, right?
Hey, good morning, Mia. I have a question about one of your first slides, the stat that's mentioned that 20% of folk will identify as neurodivergent. I'm curious to know if that statistic is about individuals who will have sort of self-diagnosed or and then decided to share, or these are individuals who represent folk that have been diagnosed who are willing to share, and then the 80%, are we talking about people who are not neurodivergent, or is it that these people have been diagnosed, some of these folk have been diagnosed but aren't comfortable in sharing? So, thank you.
Absolutely, that's a great question. So that particular slide represents the 20% that have received a formal diagnosis. And as we were discussing earlier, those numbers are growing, but at the time that I pulled that slide, that was in April of last year, and it was showing that 20% of people that have received a formal diagnosis are raising their hands saying, I am neurodivergent, and I fall under one of these categories, either ADD, ADHD, OCD, PTSD, or one of the categories that identifies as neurodivergent. Now, we know that there is a much greater number of undiagnosed people that fall under or that meet the criteria for neurodivergence, but they just haven't, for a number of reasons, been able to get a formal diagnosis. And there are a lot of obstacles to getting a formal diagnosis. A lot of insurances do not cover getting a formal diagnosis. There was a long waiting list for getting a formal diagnosis. I was able to get an ADHD diagnosis way before autism. There was an 8-month waiting list for me to get an autism diagnosis. And honestly, a provider says to me, well, you've done fine without it. At this point, why do you need it? I'm like, what are you talking about? But this is, this is the propensity that's out there. So you almost have to go deeper to advocate for yourself. And it is cost prohibitive if your insurance doesn't cover it. So that's another reason why those numbers are so small, unfortunately. And I do have resources that there are people that are looking. I've been creating a list of providers that do things on a sliding scale, and they're able to do things on Zoom, and they're able to reach out to people within different states to be able to make that more accessible. Thank you for that. So what I want to do now is just share, there are, thinking that is a great segue into this next piece. There are a lot of people within, the realm of fame that identify as neurodivergent. And I know this is a really, it's probably hard to read all of these, but these are some folks that you will recognize, right? And so it's important to see that people that that you see on television and news media, on radio, and things like that every day, that are more and more starting to use their platform to talk about neurodiversity and to be able to say, hey, listen, a lot of the reason why I have been able to rise to the level that I have been able to rise to is because I was able to take my neurodiverse status and turn it into the strengths of my creativity. Now, this is obviously with people that are well-resourced, but if you look at the origin stories of a lot of these individuals, they struggled before they had those resources. So they're taking that and putting it back into the communities of neurodiversity and saying, listen, follow me, I'm able to give back, I'm able to make this a lot easier and make it a lot more successful. And really, there are so many of these stories have, a lot of information behind it, but I was reading just recently Whoopi Goldberg's story, and she was talking about having dyslexia and ADHD and trying to read scripts, and she was like, to be honest with you, there was a long time where I couldn't read, so I would have someone read them to me, and I had to memorize them, and I had to go deep into my ADHD bag and hyper-focus on memorizing the script, and then just go back and regurgitate it to be able to perform a lot of those particular things that were happening. So, and then Howie Mandel talks a lot about his OCD and Tourette syndrome and feeling very awkward in a lot of situations where he wanted to engage with people but was so terrified by his OCD and then the tics and things that he dealt with his Tourette syndrome just had him in a place that he couldn't help but be a standout because he's like, I'm already very awkward, so I might as well just put myself out here. And a lot of these individuals suffered quietly before they found a place to be able to come out and just really be themselves. So I encourage you to look into these individuals and find strength in their stories. We don't all have to be in front of a camera on a stage or in, these particular arenas, but just know that there are people that are putting themselves out there. There is a gentleman named Louis Capaldi, and I featured him at the end of my TEDx, and he was actually doing a concert. It's this music festival in Glastonbury, and his Tourette's went into full effect in the middle of his concert, and he was unable to finish the song. And the audience realized what was going on, and they sang the entire song for him. It's so touching. It's really incredible. So if you look up Louis Capaldi in Glastonbury, you'll be able to see that. But that's just the way that people will embrace and show up for you. So I wanted you to be able to see that as well. And then you have this as well, other places to be able to connect. I think it's on the table as well, so don't worry about that. And now I want to thank you for your participation, and I think we are going to officially stop the recording and open it up for Q&A.